All right, going to go over our notes here of combining and distributing and doing all of the stuff that we need to do in order to solve an equation quickly and efficiently. So, looking on the left side as our first example, first thing we're looking at is that combining of like terms. So we've done it with expressions, but now we're looking at it recognizing that when I combine like terms, I have to look on both sides of the equal sign to combine those. So with my example over here, that looks like I've got a 3n there, positive 4n there. Those add together to get 7n. Then my plus 9 I can bring down, and that's all still equal to 2. In this instance, that's all I have to do before I can start moving things around and solving. So as I go through that, my steps are going to be that I undo my addition and subtraction, then undo my multiplication and division, and at the end we're going to check the solution. So, as I look at that, I have 7n plus 9 equals 2. I'm going to take and undo that addition. To do that, I need to subtract 9 on both sides. That leaves me with 7n because that 9 and negative 9 zero out on this side. Then 2 minus 9 gives me a negative 7. Next step, I need to undo the multiplication. So when I'm multiplying by 7, I'll divide by 7 on both sides. That leaves me with n equal to 7 divided by 7 is 1. There is a negative there, so that's a negative 1. Final step I'm going to be doing today is checking that solution. So take 3n, and instead of n, I'm going to put a negative 1. Plus 9. Then I'm going to add 4. Instead of n, I'll put a negative 1. And that equals to 2. As I solve that out, 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, plus 9, then 4 times negative 1 gives me negative 4. And if I work that out, negative 3 plus 9 gives me negative 6 minus 4, or it gives me positive 6, sorry, minus 4 ends up as 2, and that one checks out. Next, with my distributive property, I'm going to use the claw to clear out the parentheses. So this 2 reaches in there to the b and to the 4, and it's going to multiply by both of them to clear it out. 2 times b gives me just 2b, and 2 times positive 4 gives me a positive 8. The rest can be brought down, so minus 6, that equals to 12. Now, if there are any like terms, I'm going to combine those like terms in order to make it work out as simply as possible. Mainly, this positive 8 and negative 6, I'd rather combine those than take the time to move both of them across the equal sign. So when I do that, 8 minus 6 gives me 2, which is still positive. Then 2b plus that. All of that is still equal to 12. Now I'm moving on to undoing my positive or negative sign, which is going to help me to start solving. Then I'll undo my multiplication or division. And finally, I'll check my solution. So first, undoing that addition by subtracting 2. 12 minus 2 gives me 10 on this side. Since those have zeroed out, I have 2b left on that side. Then I need to undo that multiplication by dividing. I'll divide by 2, which gives me b equals 5. I'll box that up. And I'll ship it over to my equation to check and make sure it's correct. So instead of b, I'm just putting a 5. And we'll use the order of operations to solve. So 5 plus 4 gives me 9. That 9 in the parentheses then can multiply the 2 to give me 18. And if I do 18 minus 6, it does equal 12, which means I know for sure now my answer is correct. Last but not least, we're going to take and put this all together to solve an equation that has variables on both sides. So the steps I'll go through: distribute, then combine like terms, then use addition or subtraction to get the terms with variables on one side and the constants on the other. I'll isolate the variable and then finally check my solution. So working through that, first I'll distribute. So 3 times 2x gives me 6x. 3 times my positive 1 gives me positive 3. That equals to 8x minus 21. I don't have any like terms to combine, so I'll start moving things around to get my variables on one side. Start out by subtracting 8x from both sides. That means these two will zero out, and then 6 minus 8x will give me a negative 2x. Haven't done anything with the positive 3, so it stays there, and the same on the other side with negative 21. Next thing I want to do is take and get rid of that 3 on this side. So I'll do positive 3 minus 3 and subtract 3 on the other side as well. Those will zero out, leaving me with a negative 2x is equal to negative 24 on this side. Last thing I need to do before checking is some division to cancel out that multiplication. And remember, when I'm dividing, negative 2 divided by negative 2, 2 negatives make a positive. If I divide by the same number, it gives me just one whole. So I'll take, and that gives me just 1x there. And then negative 24 divided by 2 there leaves it equal to positive 12, because a negative times a negative is a positive, or negative divided by a negative also gives me a positive. This should be my answer. All I've got left to do is check it. To check it, I will substitute in. Instead of x, I'm going to put a 12. That plus 1 equals 8 times 12 minus 21. I know 2 times 12 is 24. If I add 1 to that, it is 25. So 3 times 25, 8 times 12 is 96. And I subtract 21 from that. So, as long as those two equal the same thing, we're good to go. If not, we might need to look at reworking it. So, check it. See if both my sides are equal. As long as they are, we are good to go. And you are good to start solving equations, whether you've got variable on one side or both.